Baltany is crushing it, and today I want to show you why. The watch in question is the Baltany S205033, also known as the Vintage Military Style Quartz Chronograph. Coming in at 39mm in diameter, 46.5mm lug to lug, and with 20mm lugs, this Baltany is the Goldilocks size in that it fits just right. It has a large crown and pushers, all of which screw down to keep this piece watertight to 100 meters, and at only 12.3mm thick, it rides nice and low on the wrist. This is a Dirty Dozen homage, taking inspiration from World War II military watches, and obvious cues from some modern pieces as well. And from what I can tell, vintage military is Baltany's niche. Right now, I don't think anybody is doing it better on AliExpress than Baltany. You are going to love the specs on this one. Let's start with the movement. A VK61 quartz chronograph. It has a running sub-second dial at 6 and a 60-minute chronograph dial at 12. It has sapphire crystal with AR coating, polished and lume-filled hands, Swiss Super Luminova with both BGW9 and old radium. The crown is screw down, the water resistance is 100 meters, and it weighs just 73 grams, and it comes in with a 2-year warranty. Of course, there are dozens of AliExpress watches with similar specs for the same or even less money. But what makes this one special is the overall feel of the entire package. You know, it feels like a real step up from many of the other budget AliExpress watches that I've reviewed on this channel. It all begins with the bead blasting on the case, which is applied flawlessly. It lends confidence in its ability to obscure the occasional and inevitable nick or scratch. The case keeps simple, clean lines appropriate to the Dirty Dozen days. The dial is simple and legible with oversized numbers in BGW9 white, accented by old radium triangles bordering the dial. Being a chronograph, the chapter ring can measure up to 1/5 of a second, if you have Superman-like eyesight. But the sub-second register and the 60-minute chronograph counter are large and crisp enough to be read without difficulty, although their polished hands can sometimes blend into the flat black dial. Text is kept to a minimum and is oriented to maintain balance and symmetry, although once you notice that Baltany is printed in a larger font, you just might find it a little off-putting, depending upon your personal preference. The polished hands are well-sized, and the seconds hand tipped in red really brings the whole package together. Honestly, it's a real pleasure to behold, and I think it represents more than the sum of its parts. The screw-down caseback is sterile, befitting the era from which this Baltany takes inspiration, and is begging for custom engraving. The screw-down crown is slightly oversized and easy to manipulate. Once seated, it threads in smoothly, and you can feel the watertight gaskets doing their job. The pushers are also screwed down, which is annoying if you want to time something with minimal fuss, but appreciate it if you want to take it swimming. The strap is a simple black NATO-style affair with a matte finish to complement the case. This isn't a slick seatbelt-style NATO, but you probably wouldn't want it to be, as the rougher texture feels more appropriate to the military vibes of the watch. That being said, I found it comfortable and not in the least bit scratchy. And having tried this Baltany on a number of different straps, I can tell you that it takes well to all kinds, especially this mustard NATO strap from CNS. Now, overall, I've been very enthusiastic, but I do have a few nitpicks. First, you have to apply quite a bit of pressure to seat the top pusher on my model when you screw it down. And since the pusher is small, nimble fingers are best suited to this task. Second, in a couple spots, the text isn't quite as crisp as I'd like it to be. Third, edges of the hands could be better polished, and there are nicks in certain spots as well. Of course, those last two are only something you would notice while shooting macros for Instagram, so I think for $115 they definitely meet expectations. The fourth nitpick is with the VK61 movement itself, something beyond Baltany's control, and that is the positioning of the chronograph hand at reset. Mine is ever so slightly right of center, which is a shame because as far as I know, you cannot easily adjust the centering of the chronograph hand like you can in many citizen chronograph movements. However, the upside to the VK61 is the tactile feedback of the mechanical pushers and that satisfying snapback upon reset. Plus, this movement doesn't have a near useless 24-hour subdial. With a running seconds hand, it always feels alive even when the chronograph isn't engaged. All that being said, this watch has one more trick up its sleeve, and that is the lume. This thing glows like a Seiko dive watch. I'm not kidding. I don't know what grade of Super Luminova they're using or how many coats are applied, but man does it glow and glow and glow. For a field watch, this meets and exceeds all expectations in this department. Now, I bought this watch during the 11/11 sale on AliExpress. shipped to Canada for less than 200 Canadian. Even now you can buy one for just $10 or $15 more. And at first I wasn't going to buy it because, well, my collection of cheap AliExpress watches was growing out of control, but then after the first few days of the sale it sold out. And that rarely happens with factory brands, and that caught my attention. So when it appeared again a couple days later, still during the sale, I snapped it up shortly before it sold out one more time. What I didn't know at the time was that it was back ordered, and I was asked to authorize a delay in shipping for 5 days, and then another 5 days, and then another 5 days. Well, I took the gamble, and I did so, wondering if I should have asked for my $200 back. Eventually, it shipped. And it arrived after Christmas, shortly before the end of 2022. But arrive it did. And in spite of the nitpicks outlined above, I'm glad I waited because I suspect that this one is just charming enough to not only be a bargain, but also to become a permanent part of the collection alongside my Seikos, Hamiltons, and various micro brands. At least as much as I can say that with any confidence about any watch in my collection. Well, thanks for watching. If you want to enjoy more great budget watch content, then click on one of these videos below, and it would be a huge help to me if you could like and subscribe. But of course I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad.